Cutchogue Library. I see a lot of familiar faces here, so I don't have to talk to you about what the library does for this community. I'm very happy to see you. I'm very surprised in a way because I thought this might be a good idea, that people would want to meet Stephanie and Stacy. And here she is, and it's like, it was a good idea. So if you look around you, there's a lot of different things. This is a nonfiction area of the library. There's books on many great people that have come before us that did things in the library. But mostly we're here for the people in this community. I see a lot of board members. I see a lot of friends of the library. I see a lot of people that volunteer in this community, and I'm so excited to be here with you and for you to meet Stacy. I just met Stacy about 10 minutes ago. We have never met. There were a lot of things going around this community about her family, and I was like, I'm gonna invite her in, and we're gonna meet her face to face, and we're gonna see what she means to this community, just like everyone else here. This library is for everyone, whether you're a billionaire or whether you use the food pantry out front. It's for everyone. And there's going to be a respectful discussion. And if you have any questions, oh, I forgot. If you want to write down your questions instead of, I'll just pass these along. You can just pass those back and borrow a. If anyone wants to write a question instead of yelling at the sorry. So the only thing I know about Stacy.
No questions from you.
The only thing I know about Stacy is she owns the Christmas tree farm, and she does things for special needs children there, and she also utilizes her property for cast. I'm sorry I'm so nervous. I wasn't nervous 10 minutes ago, but this means so much to me because it's community, and this library means so much to me, and I think it means a lot to Stacy as well. So welcome. With that, I'll turn it over. If you want, yeah, I think so, because you're very soft spoken. Believe it or not, just talking to it.
Okay, does that work?
Yes.
I've actually never been asked to speak anywhere before, so this is a first. And I see Will Smith isn't here, so I think okay for now. She called me a few months ago and asked me to come and speak, and a lot of people have come, one-on-one and talked to me, and they want to know my background and my story and how we got into farming. And I was born in Carson, Alberta, in Canada. I was born 3 months early, like during harvest, and I went home in a shoebox. And my grandmother was an English teacher at the Hutterite colony, and we were a farming family. And then I spent my later years in Montana. I came to New York to be a nanny. I was very poor. I couldn't go to school. And there I met my ex-husband, Stefan. And here I came to New York, and I was very excited. And my in-laws educated me, and they traveled around the world with me, and they taught me art and science and literature. And then my ex-husband said he wanted to farm. I said, wait, I left all that. I have this great, exciting life. But we went to Wichita, Kansas. I was 18 and he was 22. And we bought our first farm for $300 an acre. And that first wheat harvest, we went to Farm Credit, we got our loan. We were able to pay it back the first year. And, it was very exciting. We got more farmland. And then, I started watching how people had to sell their wheat right away. They couldn't, they had to feed their families, they had to prepare for the winter. And I saw the different grain elevators taking off for each bushel of wheat, and there was really no way for anybody to get ahead. I went to K-State for their school there, where they were teaching us new farming techniques. Plant into stubble, you don't let up the submoisture, because that's, how you cause a dust bowl, and they have different weather patterns, La Nina, El Nino. You could maybe not have rain for 10 years. So we started doing this way, and then, we became very, actually making a profit. And then we saw in Africa there was a system where you would bag your wheat on your farm. So it could go the whole length of your farm. It's vacuum sealed. How the wheat goes in is how it comes out. And it was taller than me, really big. And at the time, I had a little son, 4 or 5 years old. I couldn't take somebody off the combine, so I put him in the actual bagging machine. And then I put a flag at the end of the road. And as the authors would fill him up, he'd just, move it forward. And then I learned, going through Chicago with commodities, if you held your wheat till February, March, you get more money. So I went to Aurora, Colorado, at the flour mill there, where they make 16 million pounds of flour a day. And you can tell the protein of the wheat, like on the back of a cookie, if it's very laced into low protein. Our protein was 17 at the time, so they started paying us futures 3 years out to plant their winter white wheat. So we were able to buy more farmland and more farmland. And then now we're the 34th largest landowner in the U.S. We have over 500,000 acres of farmland. And we've tried many different things. We've tried soybeans, corn, sugar beets. Now we mostly just do a wheat rotation. That's what works well for us, and we have a cattle operation. And then I was 23, and I had 1 child. And then 3 months later, I got pregnant with 4 babies with quadruplets. And then 8 months later, I had a surprise pregnancy with 1. So I had 6 babies in 2 years. So at the time, I settled in with my in-laws in East Hampton. They were helping me. I was on bed rest a lot of the time. And then, we just stayed there. We still had our farming operation out west. We would go during harvest. My job at the time was we were really in the middle of nowhere. The closest grocery store was 2 hours away. I'd be responsible for cooking 50 pieces of fried chicken for the guys, and then when they came in from harvest at 11 at night, I'd have, taco bar, everything ready. I would do all their laundry during the day. The children didn't have anywhere to go, so I would set up a water park outside. I got a bunch of contractor black plastic, and I would make slip and slides and pools, and so we'd have all of our combines going. We bought our farms south to north, so we could really go with the harvest this way, because if you go this way, it's all at the same time. So we really planned it out that way. And then when the kids got older and I couldn't go out west as much, I was living in East Hampton, and that's when I got involved in the PTA. And I was on the Greater East Hampton Education Foundation, and I was the parent advocate for the Committee of Special Ed. And as she mentioned, people with disabilities and children with special needs, that really is my passion. I mean, I love to work and I love to create things, but community outreach and people with disabilities is really where my heart lies. I built the first handicap playground on Long Island. I met a lot of opposition with that. It was very expensive. And at the time, people would even come up to me at a restaurant and be yelling at me, why are we spending all this money for one handicapped child? At the time, there was a boy with Angelman's in our school, and he was in a walker. But I was very polite, and I just said, well, you're not paying for it, and that usually they went away. But they didn't understand what I was trying to achieve, is that it's the whole vision of everybody is included. We had children who were legally visually impaired, we had legally blind, we had children with autism, Down syndrome, and even just elderly that could play on the playground with their grandchildren. So for me, I was trying to build acceptance in a community of that everybody deserves to play, everybody is welcome. And that really took off. The Children's Museum asked me to come and do their playground, and so I said only if it's handicap accessible. And then the lacrosse coaches contacted me, and this whole vision just spread through East Hampton, and it was really beautiful. And then I found, on the North Fork with Santa's Christmas Tree Farm, an even bigger platform for Sensitive Santa and working with people with disabilities. And across all of my businesses, I hire people with autism, Down syndrome, and then I'm restoring the Cheekwood Hotel on Shelter Island right now, and it's not handicap accessible. So I've redone the whole thing. The whole front has a ramp that's going down, to get into the tower, and it is a really big passion of mine. And in East Hampton, So then we started, my ex-husband had moved upstate, and he said, I need you to come back to New York, to Long Island. And I said, why? He said, well, I got you a Christmas tree farm, and it has a shop I need you to run. So I said, okay, well, that sounds fun. So I came, and it was definitely a much bigger undertaking than he had said. They handed me the keys, and I opened the door, and this is not a little shop. And, it was just, it was, Christmas was coming 2.5 months later. I called all the old staff. They all came back, which was great. And they made it work. They worked magic. They got the shop open. And, people had been coming to the Christmas tree farm for 30 years. And the fact that they didn't have to miss a year with their children or grandchildren was really special. And then he purchased the winery. So then I had to learn, I've learned many different crops. Grapes are very unique. So I spent that year learning how to grow grapes. And then the next year in the wine cellar with our winemaker, learning how to make wine. And then this last year we opened up our tasting room and I learned how to sell the wine. My ex-husband told me to go to Shelter Island to look at the cheap-wit. And when I got there, I fell in love. It's so beautiful, the history of it, and I wanted to save it. It was really important to me. So I dove in, and that has been, the last 2 years, it has really been everything that I've been doing. It was so much more, that I had anticipated. And being in Shelter Island, being a part of that community, it really is a womb. Every single person would come and talk to me. They would sit on the porch. They would tell me stories of the Cheapwood. They would tell me what the community needs. And it was so much fun to back and forth and listening to them. And then other opportunities came up for sale with Jack's Marine and with the pharmacy. And when Greg came to me, when other people were looking at the pharmacy, and it would have changed drastically. So I asked my ex-husband, I said, please, we need to save the pharmacy. And so he allowed me to do that. And my passion behind that is I lived in East Hampton for 18 years. And at that time, before 9/11, it was a really beautiful place. My children would go out with the Bayman. We would be in the walking dunes. We'd go out to the lighthouse. And then little by little, the town got bought by big developers. And all of our mom and pop shops had to leave. They raised their rents. We lost our butcher, and we lost our breakfast place. We lost a sewing shop. Little by little, everybody had to leave, and they were replaced with Tiffany's and Louis Vuitton. And then one day I biked to town, because at that time you couldn't drive to town anymore because there was no place to park. And the toy store clerk was crying, and she said, we have to leave. And I said, why? She said, the new landlord raised our rent to $500,000 a year. Oh. And so we lost our toy store. And then I just never went to town anymore. There was no point. We lost our village. We lost all the shops that support Little League, and they support the schools and the dances. And we lost all the restaurants that we would go to after ballet and after school plays. And then we lost the ice cream shop where we would go after Little League. And it just didn't feel like a community anymore. And so when I saw that that could happen to Shelter Island, I didn't want that. So I'm just trying to preserve it for what it is. And now here on the North Fork, I've been doing the same. I kept Santa's the way it was, and hired back the staff and the winery, and hired back the old winemaker. I'm doing the best I can with farming. Farming is very difficult out here to have an actual sustainable crop. It's definitely not row crop vegetables. I lost my shirt with pumpkins and with corn. And so now I planted most of our farms to pasture. I have cattle here on the North Fork. I think cattle it's not labor intensive. I think that could be a very sustainable crop. I have grapes on the North Fork. And that's, I guess, really my story.
Can you speak to that a little bit more about that experience of the loss? What made it not be successful? Not because but this must be why they're all for sale.
Yes, it is impossible.
And what is that?
So, for instance, one of those huge containers of watermelon that you see outside the supermarket, we get $4 for that.
For the whole thing?
For the whole thing. So if farmers won't survive out here without a retail component, and I'm a strong advocate for supporting farmers because they can't make it. And now with the labor laws going to 40 hours and diesel doubling, fertilizer doubling, all the farms will be gone on the North Fork. there will be no farmers left. And if you don't support the farmers, if you don't pay 50 cents more for a cucumber, you go to BJ's, you go to Riverhead for everything, the farmers can't survive. So I don't have a retail operation because I tried my farm stand at the winery. Nobody went. I threw everything. Well, I have pigs, so everything went to the pigs. You can't sell wholesale out here. Farmland is $100,000 an acre. I house 18 guys. I house families. That's all of their, living expenses. I pay for their gas, their propane, which I'm happy to do. But a lot of people don't have that luxury. And with this new farming bill, I don't feel that it's fair because we're in such a unique situation. I think it should go by area and by county. Upstate, there's more people to work. There you can house them. And the cost of living is so much less. And here, our growing window is so small. May through September, October. Our crops are so labor intensive. There is no way that farmers out here can survive with a 17% increase. There's no way for it to happen. If they have a retail outlet, maybe they could sell one watermelon for $4 or $6, but it's not possible. It's not possible for farming to be sustainable out here at this model.
So the cattle will make it possible. Yeah.
What I've been told is one cow, in all of its ways, politically correct ways, it could give you $20,000. So it's not labor intensive. I have one cowboy cattleman, and right now I have 5 different. Rick D'Elia helped me, and Dave Steele. We got a good pasture blend, biodynamic. Joe McCarry helped me also, and we have I think it's 5 different fields, so they'll be rotating. I'm trying it. I started it last year, and I'm doing everything that I can to be sustainable in farming on the North Fork. And there's so many wonderful people. Cider is amazing, and Joe Shipman has Shamrock's Farm, and he's been helping me with trees for 2 years. And he's there 3 times a week at my farm, and helping me with Cornell, calibrating the sprayers, and there's so much passion in helping each other, and there's no competition. And it's such a beautiful and unique place, and I really hate to think about what is going to happen in these next couple of years. Last year alone, I did 70 pallets worth of soil amendments for my grapes alone. Magnesium, sulfate, lime. It was an astronomical amount of money. If you don't take care of the soil, then you have to, they're more susceptible to disease. You have to spray more, and that's also, labor intensive. So, I started with the soil amendments last year, and then I'll just keep building on that. But all of these things cost money. And everybody wants to see the vistas and everybody wants to see the farmlands, but they don't have to pay for it and they don't want to pay for it. There should be a big initiative to help farmers get, I do have an idea for a part of my commercial property, and that is, giving the farmers a seat at the table. They will have an actual retail commercial space. And maybe it's some sort of a way where, each farmer can take a turn manning it. I'm sure there's people in the community that would help with advertising and different things like that, where every single dollar that you spend goes into the pocket of the farmer. And that's really my passion, to build, some sort of commercial outlet for the local farmers. And also the local women who make jam and for honey. It's so painful for me to have them come into my shops and try to sell me their pickles or jam at half, wholesale. And that's only paying for their jars. It's maybe they're not making any money on it. So if there's a way that local craftspeople could actually have a seat at the table and have a commercial outlet for selling their goods, it would be life-changing for them. And I just think the town and the community really needs to get behind the farmers. They don't understand. It's so difficult. And it's very hard. When it was 100 degrees, we were picking corn at 3 in the morning. 3 in the morning we're picking corn. And then we're taking a break in the afternoon. We were packing corn at night till 11 at night. And it's not glamorous. You don't make money on it. It's passion. Every farmer I know is extremely passionate about farming.
Stacy, what are the changes in the farming laws? What exactly are the changes?
So now after 40 hours, it's overtime, and they can't no farming operation can sustain this. It's not possible.
The guys don't want it.
The guys don't want it either. But in other parts of the country or even the state, you can bring in more people to take on that after 40 hours to come in and work. But if you're paying time and a half, I don't know many companies, let alone farming, that can pay all of their employees time and a half. And so there's many times throughout the year, like right now my guys they're not working as much. You know, they're fixing farm equipment, they're doing fencing, you know, we finished all the pruning. But say you're just doing potatoes or you're doing pumpkins, it's one season and it's very labor intensive during that time. I feel there are other ways we could go about it. We could do the 40-hour week, but maybe spread out through the year. You know, maybe it's 60 hours during July and August, and then it goes down to 30, so it kind of averages out. This model is not sustainable.
Do you think you could talk about the development for the hotel or motel or
Sure.
resort? Or...
Sure. And I have a piece of paper because there's a lot of numbers.
Repeat the question.
Sure. He would like me to speak about the hotel project at Peconic Bay Vineyards. I am tasked with developing Stefan's commercial property. That area is in the B commercial zone. It's, you know, in the hamlet. It's the most coveted commercial property. There are many ways that place could be developed. You know, when my ex-husband and our lawyers sat down with what actually could be developed there. It's 9.7 acres of B zone, which means it could be 2 to 3 King Cullen shopping centers. It's 106,400 retail commercial space spread out over 13 buildings. Each of those buildings up to 8,000 square feet each. You're also allowed 39 apartments on top of that. And also I'm allowed 23 houses permitted as of right. That to me is an astronomical amount of development.
Sure is.
So I sat for a while thinking, you know, how could I tie this into farming? How can I do work for my ex-husband. How can I develop this property responsibly, respectfully, in keeping with the community? And what I came up with is a hotel that's really in more like in agri-tainment. So it's more coming in. You could be part of the grape operation. I know for me, when I went to the flour mill in Aurora, Colorado, and they brought me through how everything works, or if you go to the dairies and you learn how things go, to me it's fascinating, and I think that there are other people who would love to come out and stay and be in the cellar with the winemaker, learn how to make wine. I was thinking about having guest chefs come and then do wine pairings, and you know, learn how to care for the land, learn how to be, you know, in the vines, be with the grapes. I thought that was a responsible way to develop the property because it's 40 bedrooms, it's 40 flushing toilets. The main building is only 6,000 square feet, which, you know, many houses out here who are larger than 6,000 square feet. I feel in developing it with houses, I think the traffic would be greater. I think the town would be taxed more in schools. I think cars coming and going grocery shopping, dropping off at school, going to soccer practice, going to friends. I think there would be so much more traffic than a seasonal weekend hotel where my goal is to keep them in program at my hotel for the weekend, you know, in all of these related activities.
Not all farming is Whitman Farm. Right. You sound as though.
Well, he has a great retail component. He has a great.
But I mean, there are
right.
farms, not just Whitman, but other ones, who actually kind of hold on for quite a while.
Right, but now this has changed though with labor.
Yeah, so it's how far the turnaround part. Well, I haven't heard from Whitman's. I think it's pretty good. I think they're holding on. They're not the only ones.
Well, they also purchased their land a long time ago. Now land is $100,000 an acre. It's pretty impossible now to pay back farmland.
What regulations are these, Stacy, that you're talking about? Is this the town of Suffolk?
No,
Is it state regulations? So these are coming down from the assembly and the state assembly.
So they brought it down to 60 now, and they're making their way to 40. So it's already been passed for 40, and so it's tapering down to 40. But right, if you've been here for 3 generations, of course, you know, except for, of course, diesel is doubling, fertilizer is doubling, and labor. But if you're buying farmland now or sustaining farmland now, it's a lot of money.
Stacy, how much farmland have you bought?
On the North Fork,
Yeah, on the North Fork.
we have about 2,000 acres. We started buying land here in 2011, and that was because when we were stuck home with the children, we loved to farm. So we got a farm in Bridgehampton, we have a farm in East Hampton, and then we started coming to the North Fork. So obviously there's no farmland.
So all the farmland that you see the signs on, what is your relationship with those properties? And will they be active, sustainable farms? Or is there something further down the road that you're looking at? I mean, people out here obviously are scared to death of commercial. And with reason, you can't drive the roads in the summer. And so that's the big concern. What you're telling us just sounds very good for the community, but there's an awful lot of property. What is the intent going forward?
Well, I mean, we've been farming here since 2011. It hasn't been a problem. You know, now all of a sudden, everybody is up in arms, but we've been here for a very long time. And
because we see so many more signs, that's
Well,
what it is. And because you're building a hotel to do with that land.
well, we've always owned it. You know, it's just when you have farmhands and you say, go down 25, go past Wickham and start working on the farm there. Nobody knows where it is. We had to put signs on our farm so you can say, go to Cayley Field, and they know to go to Cayley Field. That's really all it is. There's nothing greater about that. It's just when you don't live out here, I can't tell them just go to East Marion and find the farm. You have to tell them where to go. There has to be signage.
Why do you have to put a hotel there? I understand the ability to develop and develop on the key land there and how valuable it is. You could also sell it to a developer, pick up the big shopping centers. You could also sell the development rights to the Conic Land Trust and keep it in perpetuity undeveloped. The argument that, well, it has nothing to do with farming. It has to do with that piece of commercial property. All this discussion about farming is important. It doesn't have anything to do with the hotel. The hotel's on this commercial property. You say you want what's best for the community, but does the community need another hotel? Well, or just another profit-making, opportunity for you?
Luckily, Bill Edwards is here, and I didn't know you were going to be here tonight, Bill. And Bill was here 30 years ago when we did
Well,
a
I'd like to
master
have her
plan.
answer the question, though.
Okay,
rather than have someone
with
else
that,
answer.
we will answer the question, but in that time, 30 years ago, we were building subdivisions like you wouldn't believe all over the farmlands. And Bill, I think you were very prominent in that.
I was on the land preservation committee
yes.
before I was on the town board, yes.
And what the idea was then was to bring the businesses into the towns, into the local areas, and save our farms, save our scenic land.
This is a commercial property that doesn't need to be developed, so I just asked the question rather than more, I was here 30 years ago.
No,
so
but
I
I'm gonna let Bill, if you don't mind,
Sure.
I'm gonna let Bill answer.
I just want to correct one thing you said, and also which you mentioned the Conic Land Trust buying development rights. They do not. Those rights are sold and purchased either by the town or by the county.
Excuse me, Bill,
those
can
are
you just
the-
introduce yourself as you were then?
Yeah,
You know,
my name is
specialist.
Bill Edwards. I've lived in the town for many years.
Oh, Bill, they can't hear you over there.
You can just
Stand up. I'm sorry, I'm catching you totally off guard, but.
Unaccustomed as I am to public speaking. My name is Bill Edwards. I've lived full-time in the town for 20 some odd years, but I've been here since 1990. And I had the good fortune to serve on the Land Preservation Committee circa 1999 to 2003 when I went on the town board for a term. There are a couple of things that you should know. First of all, the only people who buy development rights are the town and the county. I have no idea whether you've sold any development rights. I would like to sell you on the idea of doing it, but in any case, those are the two agencies that have the fund, the fund. And those of you who bought houses here since the year 2000 paid a tax of 2% of the amount over 150,000 in the purchase price. And that 2% went into a fund which allows the town to buy development rights on the basis of a willing seller and a willing buyer. Typically, in round numbers, Stacy did say that raw land is worth about $100,000 an acre. That means that the town or the county has to shell out between $60,000 and $75,000 an acre to buy those development rights. So, in fact, the cost of buying farmland, if its development rights have been sold, is more in the range of $25,000 to $30,000. The other thing that is important to remember about this project in Cutchogue, and I'm not trying to sell anybody on it, is that Ray Blum, who maybe some people knew, he was a good friend of mine. He started that vineyard many years ago, and Ray was always very smart with a dollar, and it's the only vineyard in South Old Town with any commercial zoning. All the rest of it's zoned agricultural, which is really potentially residential. Most of it's zoned minimum 80,000 square feet. If that's helpful
And Bill,
information.
can you just talk a little bit about the clustering of businesses near town as opposed to?
Well, the town board for years has wanted to see businesses concentrated in the hamlets, obviously. As much as anything, because we always hoped there'd be more public transportation than there has worked out. But in any case, that has definitely been a desire. When I was on the town board, we passed legislation to essentially keep big boxes out of the town. And you'll notice we don't have any big box retailers. And to some extent, I'm not sure about whether that would stand up in court, but it's never had to. So I think anybody who tried to open a retail shopping center out, say, on the North Road, would be to some extent the town is already a little oversupplied and has been for many years in retail square footage, and that becomes an investment. Until you can rent all that space, nobody's going to build new space. So
Thank you, Bill.
anyway, that's
Appreciate
enough
it.
from me. If that's helpful.
If maybe now, thank you, Bill, if you could now answer the question, and maybe it wouldn't be the Peconic Land Trust who does fund a lot of it, it would be the owner, but you could still sell the development rights that wouldn't be developed
Well,
donate it.
sure.
or
Well,
donate it.
in the end, everything is owned by my ex-husband. I do work for him. His whole mission has always been to develop this property. It's why he bought this property. He has his own visions of this property. I have been able to tone that down. So far, he's been okay with what I'm proposing. He would rather I develop the property than he develop the property. But either way, I'm tasked with developing this property. I'm trying to do this in the most responsible, protective way. And what, like you said, what can be built there. Even if he were to just do 23 houses, he could make huge houses. They could have 5 flushing toilets each. They could have 2 washers and dryers. They could have dishwashers and pools, and he could sell them for $3 million each. And that would be $70 million. Do you know?
Isn't that like East Hampton? Now we have a billionaire who owns all this land, and he's saying, look, you either do it my way or I'm going to put up big shopping malls.
But he's not. He's not saying that.
But if you're not successful, you said it before, you have to succeed here.
And
If
so
you're
far, I
not, then
have.
he's going to come in and he's going to do what he wants as a billionaire to the community that we love, but it'll be worse than East Hampton because at least those are shops and this will just
Well,
be.
the other thing is that it wasn't always, it's not just that he's a billionaire. These things were planned 30 years ago.
He owns 2,000 acres out here. He's
Yes,
saying basically
I'm not
there's
saying
9
he's not a
acres
billionaire.
that
I'm
if
not
you
saying
don't-
that. I'm
If you
just
don't
saying.
develop it the way I'd like to, then I'm just gonna clear it and put up a shopping center. So it makes it difficult for us to believe that it's in the community's best interest. Because the threat is that if you don't do it this way, my ex-husband will wipe it all out.
No, it's actually not a threat. It's
reality.
Well, it's not even a reality. He had his own vision before I came to the Norfolk 2 years ago. Being here in the community, I have been able to steer him in a different direction, and he's been okay with that because so far I have been successful. I mean, I haven't made money yet on Norfolk, but what I've done with the Christmas Tree Farm and what I've done bringing the winery back to life, the vines back to life, and establishing the hotel, we're opening in 30 days. I feel that I'm going to be very successful this summer with the hotel and with the restaurants. I hire all local, even opening up the hotel and the restaurant right now, all of our staff is local. I actually rented 2 houses to house people, and I don't have to. Everybody is local.
Speaking of houses, the first two houses, I know you've tried to buy, 3 houses on Harbor Lane.
And that's a lie. I have not tried to buy any of the houses. That's a lie.
I've been told that you bought 2 of them.
I know, and
you
people
bought
have
one
said a
and
lot.
you're
It's a
in
lie.
the process of buying the second one.
That's a lie.
You've been misinformed.
Yeah, that's a lie. Every week, people come
The
to
people
me.
that own the house have told me this.
I know, they have
You've been
approached me to buy
misinformed.
it.
There's no reason for us to lie.
They have approached me to buy it. I have no use
And
for
what
buying
about the
houses.
funeral parlor? What's your intentions with that?
I've already met with the town. I want to put 6 apartments in for local families. So that's what, and the town's very happy with that plan. So I'll be, we're going in through the designing phase for that right now.
Will that be for your workers?
No, it's just for local families.
We can't get off our block as it is right now. To put more housing there, 6
She's not putting
apartments.
housing.
I'm not putting those.
You're putting 6 apartments. So that's.
What are you
6
doing with that entrance
6
on Harbor?
Are you blocking their heart?
I mean, everything will be going through site plan.
But do you have intentions of blocking the entrance
So-
off on Harbor Lane?
I don't have.
Because you have an exit and an entrance onto the main road
I know.
from the property.
Everything is in infancy. Everything of my focus has been on the cheap
So
light.
when will we know any of this stuff?
Well, I'm very transparent. Everything that I do, I come to the community, I go to the newspapers. Everything that I do is with a lot of dialogue with the town. I've had many meetings with the town. I still have never submitted anything for the hotel. I have only been having dialogues with the community and with the town. Everything is in its infancy. I've been talking about it for 2 years. There's no surprise. And same thing with the funeral home. There is such a need for housing. That is all you hear. And so I'm trying to do housing, and I will get beat up. No matter what I do, it doesn't matter.
Thank you for coming tonight. So, as you just said, one of the big issues out here for all the employers is staffing, especially the last 2 years. This new hotel you're gonna do in Cutchogue, this 40-room hotel, how many full and seasonal employees do you anticipate happening? And how do you plan to address the housing? You're talking about these apartments. If not everyone's fortunate enough to be local, that's a big hurdle for people.
Like I said, everything is still in its infancy.
Right.
I haven't even made a plan. These have only been ideas, and I work 7 days a week, and mostly on Shelter Island. This morning I was at the service counter, feeding people. We opened up the service counter today at the pharmacy, so I was there at 7:30. But all I can speak for is my track record for now. So everybody I've hired is local, and same thing with Jack's Marine. I kept the same staff, and then Tony Ann, who manages the Christmas tree shop for me, her son-in-law and her daughter are helping me manage over there. Everybody stayed on at the pharmacy. Everybody is local. I put out, feelers for the hotel on Shelter Island local, and I got 15 people. We're interviewing them next week. Noah has found everybody local to open up our restaurants on Shelter Island. So across the board, it has worked every single time. Everybody at the winery, I get all families, their siblings come, I get kids home from college. It's been all local. I haven't had to house them. I would anticipate it would be the same with this hotel. People really enjoy working for me. I think we have a great team, and it hasn't been a problem. I don't anticipate it being a problem.
Stacy, the funeral home, I'm sorry,
Yeah, this thing.
Thank you so
so much. This has been so generous of you, and your story would make a movie. It's like so exciting. I have a little favor to ask. There's a style out here on the North Fork that is very unique, and that's that you see front porches and it's like a friendly face on the street. You see vineyards, and you, even though like they're paying agricultural taxes that are lower, the public benefits because we get to see the vistas. So I was kind of disappointed to see the non-native arborvitae blocking the view. If there's any way you could keep things to 4-foot max when it's on
the vineyard.
Yeah, on the scenic. They're scenic byways, by the way. 25 and 48 are scenic byways.
And so when I first got the vineyard, everybody actually came to me and said, can you please put them up? Because when they're sitting at the vineyard, it's the traffic and it's the noise. And then all of King Cohen's garbage comes into our vineyard. We spend so much time every day cleaning up our whole vineyard. We have so much garbage, and all of the garbage trucks that come down the road, nobody has that flap over the back, you know, that holds the garbage in. It just comes on all of our farmland and all of our properties. It just spews everywhere. So that, in a way, is keeping the garbage off the vineyard too.
Maybe a deer fence, because they have like the littler holes, and then you could just pull the garbage off the deer fence.
No, but I will definitely cut them shorter. You know, I
Thank you
was just
so
doing
much.
what somebody
That
asked
would
me
be
before.
wonderful. Thank you.
Hi, you said you had about 2,000 acres of farmland.
Yes.
And as Bill said, there is a program through South Old Town where you can sell the development rights. Now, many farmers have done this.
Right, they have.
And they keep their farms in farming because of this.
And a lot of ours is already in
In South Old Town?
there.
Which farms are?
I honestly couldn't tell you. My main focus has been just renovating the businesses that we have. I haven't been able. Well, Santa's is one.
Chrissy
Yeah.
Vineyard on Main
But
Road
that-
by the Cutchogue School.
I mean,
City.
yeah, the farmlands that we see as we drive by. I know Santa's, you didn't put it into land preservation. It was done by the owner before you, and then you bought in. But it would look, and I think a lot of people would feel more comfortable if you went along with the other farmers who love this town so much and sold their development rights.
And that program would have worked, 10 years ago, but what we're saying now is $100,000 an acre, and with all of the labor laws, if you sell into that, there's no way to survive at this moment.
Well, they're getting, as Bill said, almost up to $75,000 an acre on $100,000 per acre.
I mean, we are open to everything. Honestly, if anybody who knows the Cheekwood, I mean, it almost collapsed. We had to span the whole thing in steel. Everything had to be completely rebuilt. It has been all-consuming, for 2 years. I have not focused on anything else.
Yeah, maybe you could mention it.
I'll definitely mention it. It depends on if he's happy with me at the moment.
Get him in a good
He hasn't
mood.
spoke to me in a month, so
I know you don't need the money, but you could take the money and roll it into another
It's a
farm.
write-off for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Stacy, so the plan as it is now, is to put 6 margins in that, so you're gonna raise it and.
No, it has to all be in the same structure.
So you can convert that property into 6 margins.
Well, like I said, everything is in infancy. When we purchased the funeral home, they approached me, and we did, because I actually am moving into the house next door. Like I will be living there. So
You're moving into the White House?
yeah, I just finished it, so I'm moving into the White House.
You did a beautiful job on that one.
And so, what if somebody else bought next to me, right? Like, that's my neighbor. So, I purchased that. Well, my ex-husband purchased that. And, I was thinking of many different ways. Once I beg him and I get him to purchase something, then I have to have a business plan. So I sat down with my lawyer in the town, and what would you like to see here? What could be here? Do we need another restaurant right here? What do we need? What is needed? And every time, what do you hear? What is needed? Affordable housing. that's
We
what's
thought it was
needed.
gonna be the check-in for your hotel.
Yeah,
Because you have the arbor to go in, you're gonna put your spa in there.
It's gonna be a disco nightclub.
You mentioned something about raising cattle, and McCall's is probably the only place out here that has cattle right now. I don't see cattle out here, and
Over near the Jamesport Country Store.
There's
Yeah,
a lot of
yeah.
properties
and
there.
cattle is also very polluting. And you know what? I just don't see it as an addition to the North Fork.
There's about 8 people who have cattle on the North Fork.
I think that's 8 enough. I don't think any more than that, because again, it's very polluting.
I like the cattle.
So,
Did you bring any preliminary drawings of the Peconic Bay winery property and what you?
I haven't because, I should have. Okay, how the whole Peconic Bay came about was I was in the city doing a wine tasting with our wines, and the person was there from the Real Deal. I didn't know that, and he said, "Well, why is a little winery from the North Fork in New York City doing a wine tasting?" I said, "Well, no, because this is actually our wine." And I was very excited telling him, come out and see, I'll show you, you can learn how to prune, you can be in the winery. And I told him my big vision for getting people back on the land, back in nature, learning how to work with the soil. And he thought it was a fantastic idea. But I hadn't had a plan, it was just an idea. And then it just blew up. So I don't have a plan yet, it's only an idea. I have to get the Cheekwood open and flush and get everything finished and ready, and I'm hoping to have a plan soon.
Hi, I'd like to repeat the thanks. I think you're a very brave woman. I do have a flash of concern. Stefan is your ex-husband, and you are the developer of all of his stuff. What is going to happen when you finish the development and you've accomplished your mission intra-family, and Stefan is now in charge? We don't know anything about Stefan other than what you read in the paper. I happen to know your ex-father, or your former father-in-law from many years ago.
Yes.
I don't know that Stefan carries his development gene, but if he does, it's a pretty aggressive gene. And what's going to happen? Are you going to be staying around? Are you going to be in charge? Are you going to have an ownership interest? Or is it going to be Stefan 3 years from now?
Well, honestly, this is a legacy I'm building for my children. I have 11 children. They're very involved. My daughter, my 13-year-old, just finished painting our wine label. She's going to be doing more of them. The bus tables. Yesterday there was no school. They were at the hotel with me all day. They were at the food counter in the pharmacy. My 7-year-old already said she gets Santas. The other one wants to be a winemaker. She's been working with Greg. She even has her own wine that's in barrel right now. My children are very hardworking, and I'm very proud of my children. My son Hayden, he donates to a lot of different charities. We are opening the Cheekwood on the 30th. There's 16 children on Shelter Island going to Spain. It's about $3,400 per student. This is really an opportunity of a lifetime for them to live with host families and learn cuisine and history. And it's been very hard for the parents to come up with the money. They approached me, and so we're doing a really big benefit for them on the 30th. I think we have now covered all of the cost. My son was the first to donate. He donated $25,000 for the children because he knows how much it has changed him to be able to travel the world. So my children are wonderful. They're involved, and they will be working alongside me. And I know everybody thinks this is Stefan's big money maker. It's not. He is very grateful to me for helping him build his agriculture company and supporting him all these years. He is happy to help me with my passion, which is everything that I'm doing out here. There aren't any profits so far, and when there will be profits, it's really, honestly, it's like one apartment for him in the city in rentals. This is really not on his radar. This is not how he makes his money. Yes?
This might be because I didn't quite understand the specifics, but you mentioned a couple of times that you feel some responsibility or pressure to make sure that all these properties are good businesses. Some of that pressure comes from your ex-husband, and some of it I'm sure comes from you. But I guess my question is, if the cows don't work out, if the vineyards don't work out, if those farmlands don't turn the kind of profit that you would like to see, what's your vision for what happens next on all that farmland?
Well, I'm always pretty resourceful, but the vineyard model does work. My first year being open, we opened in May. We had 3 rain-out holidays. My tasting room was very small, and we did, about 2,500 cases of wine. This year we're doing about 4,500 cases of wine. So I was able to sustain, almost sell out of that wine. This year I'm doubling that. He was so happy with how I did last year. He's allowing me to plant 30 more acres of vines this year. And I'm also adding 4 more tanks in my winery. So next year I'll be able to go up to about 7,000 cases of wine. And every year, if he sees how it goes, I'll be able to plant more and more vines. My goal is all of our vineyards to get them full. And either way, I'll make it work. I'll figure out something that
How many
works.
vineyards do you own? How many vineyards do you own?
I think like 5.
But all go to the Cotton Bay?
Yes.
Well, we sell a lot of fruit.
We sell fruit too. I don't have a big enough winery to make all that wine, and I also don't have the clientele to sell it yet. I'm hoping, one day, because you definitely, from vine into wine, that's definitely where you can make money. If you sell the fruit, it just pays for your labor, really.
Why isn't that enough to grow a business on a vineyard without having to put a hotel in the middle of a residential?
Can't hear you.
She asked why that wasn't enough to have the vineyard be profitable rather than having to put a hotel in the middle of a residential area.
Well, it's when I say I did really well, he was happy with the wine sales, but it is a commercial property, so we're paying commercial prices for an agriculture operation. That's why it's never been successful.
I have a question for you, if you mind. My name is Vincent. Stacy and I are engaged. There's no need to have a wedding. We have enough children. I have a question for you. So, did you understand when she was saying she's preserving 2,000 acres of farm vista?
Not in my neighborhood.
I understand that, but on the north, right? So it's not. And then I really would like to gain public sentiment in what's more important, agriculture or preserved land? Like, does anybody really care about agriculture anymore?
Right. And it can be preserved as agriculture.
Right. So now, when
They're not mutually exclusive.
and then somebody just asked what happens when those businesses fail, right? So Marty Sider is the only row farmer left on the north. Well, then you got Satter Farms, right? So they're sustaining simply because they have a retail component, right? So agriculture, as we know it, when this overtime rate kicks in, agriculture is done.
That's very short-term thinking. The fact is that you could sell the development rights, keep it agriculture. Administrations come and go, laws come and go. The fact that agriculture is not going to go away because we went to 40 hours, that'll change. You can sell it in perpetuity, keep it agricultural. They're not mutually exclusive, and it doesn't have to be developed because it's 10
Commercial land?
Commercial. It doesn't have to be developed as a hotel, or as a shopping mall, or as 60 apartments. It just doesn't have to be.
So
And
what business are you
agriculture is
in?
not going
So do
away.
you have a business?
I'm not here answering.
You're-
No, I don't own a
and you
business.
don't want anybody
I'm sorry,
telling
I'm
you
not,
how to
no,
run
I'm
your
happy to answer your question. No, I don't own a business.
You're right. So come
I don't own
on.
a business.
Everybody, this isn't Russia, right? Even though she's the Russian.
No, this is
not Russian.
definitely.
I'm Irish, Scottish, Polish, and Canadian.
Wait, so this isn't a communism, socialism.
Third generation. This is not as Russian as I am
Vincent,
Italian.
this is not a social, communist, capitalist discussion.
This isn't, right?
You're entitled to make a profit, you should make a profit.
Sustainable. How to
I
be sustainable,
I
right?
counsel companies all the time on how to make more money.
This
Doesn't
isn't
mean
that.
that you need to turn that into a hotel.
Well,
Is that
all right, tonight I was asked to come to speak about being Person of the Year and the community. We will have many opportunities to speak about the hotel. I've already had one public gathering. I will have many more as soon as it's in production, and that is a really an appropriate time to talk about it. Yes?
Are you fixed on I know you said your ex-husband first, you said 60 units, and now he's conceded to go down to 40 perhaps. Are you fixed on that, or further discussions with whomever maybe help him change his thoughts on that and make the community more accepting of what you want to do?
Sure, I'm definitely open to all of that. Like I said, my focus has only been on the Chiclet. It's only been on the Chiclet. As soon as I am back on track with this, I have always been very vocal. Anybody can come to any of my businesses and speak to me at any time. I'm very open and transparent.
With any presentation, which you've done a great job with, I might say, there's always following up. There should be negotiation.
Yes,
and
I
you're willing to have negotiation.
Definitely. That's why I've been having preliminary meetings with the town. I've never submitted anything. It's just meetings. It's just talking.
That's okay if the hotel is. I think that's the idea.
Well, the thing is, if I just did apartments, I could just be a landlord and make money. If I do the hotel, I'm still working 7 days a week. It's still a lot of hard work. Yes.
I've only been a homeowner out here since '84, but my family's been out here for over 100 years. And I don't know how many people remember the motel at the end of Duckwood. Duckwood, it's now the
Duck Farm.
Yeah, like in the
Beachcomber.
There were motels out here, people drove out and came and supported the restaurants, etc. I think this tentative plan just being developed would be very, very good for Cutchogue and would fit in with the restaurants.
Thank you. It's also yes.
I'd just like to, I'm by no means supportive of the plan because I haven't seen the particulars. But everybody in this room should know, number one, that anything that a developer wants to do is subject to the planning board, the whole process of hearings, and so forth. I can also say in terms of your fear of residential development, which is a great fear of mine and always has been, at the time that I was on the town board, we changed the zoning code so that because most of the farmland in this town, with the exception of a little bit out in Orient, most of it is zoned what's called R80, which means each house can only have 80,000 square feet, which is known in the trade as a builder's acre. However, if you want to subdivide a piece of land, I meant 2 builder's acre. If you want to subdivide a piece of land, 60% of the land must be preserved, and the roads and the drainage have to come out of the other 40%. And by and large, since that code was changed, which is now approaching 20 years ago, the guys who really ruined Brookhaven, they don't come here. And I think it's because they can't figure a way to make money at it. And also, if you buy that land for $100,000 an acre, but you're going to have to dedicate 2 acres, so $200,000 each one of the houses, but you have to double the cost of that because the process of subdivision takes years, and it takes a tremendous amount of money. And therefore, I'm not saying we are protected. We are not protected. Unless the land is preserved, it's not protected. But it's not quite as scary as you think it is. And I hope it stays that way. And I hope that you talk with the town and the county and about development rights, sale, and so forth. But we do have protections in this because of the zoning code and because of the whole hearing process.
Thank you.
That's just for a fact, in case people didn't know that, 60% preservation.
Well, it sounds like you're very, very busy as is with 11 children and development and farming and everything else. But to Bill's point, I do think that you've been very focused on, like you said, the hotel and things like that. As you move forward, a lot of the trepidation I think you're hearing tonight is the loss of farmland and things like that. And I think the biggest peace of mind that everybody gets is when they hear protected farmland, whether you sell your development rights to the town, and I don't know, and obviously, I guess, I don't know who you, of the 2,000 acres that you own, how much is currently protected, and perhaps you should constantly bring that, because as you said, you'll make it work. You know, so if you sell your development rights and you're locked in for farming, I think you can make it work. And the thing is, it would be, that's the peace of mind that I'm hearing in the community here, because I do believe you're committed to farming. You certainly have a history of it. You're demonstrating it now, and I think everyone here can hear that as well. And I think that the sale of development rights originally was for families who were perhaps struggling to maintain and perpetuate farming. You would be using it in a different way, in that you would be presenting yourself as someone who really is committed to farming and kind of relinquishing the rights, because you probably don't need the money, but it's always good, right? We all need that. And that would be the tool that you'd be using to send out a different message, but with the same outcome. So, just one more thing on your list there, Stacy.
Is there any particular style of architecture for that Peconic property that you were thinking about?
Yes. Well, forward facing, I spoke with the town board a lot about this. Forward facing on the road would be New England style, in keeping with Cutchogue. For me, I built a wellness center upstate. I have 9 acres on the mountain on the Appalachian Trail. I would bring people into nature. I work a lot with the people of the earth, the Kogi Indians, Native Americans, and building right relationship with the land. And for me, the actual hotel, which would be behind it, is all glass. It would be environmentally friendly. It'd be hempcrete. Everything that you would see, so it'd be sunken into the ground, and you wouldn't see the cars go down or parking. It would all be green, and the roof is green with beehives, and it's a very environmental building, but it's glass so that you're in nature.
Glass, is that what you said?
Yeah, it's glass.
So in glass wall?
Yeah.
Like a greenhouse.
Mm-hmm. It's a glass, and so even the spa, everything is glass outside. Treatment rooms would be inside, which would have, it would be covered, but everything is glass.
We still wouldn't be visible from the road. So.
Right.
What about from people's backyard?
I know, that was going to be all of mine.
Yeah.
Yes?
I'm sorry, well, Mr. Edwards mentioned there is the 60-40 rule, which is when you develop, you have to, 60 has to be and develop 40. We also have a tool called the conservation subdivision. Right, so you're familiar with it? For those of you in the community, what this is you basically protect a larger swath of land and you develop a smaller portion. And that's a very good tool.
I think one of our properties in East Marion, when we purchased it, was like that.
Okay, so again, that doesn't prohibit you from development, because you have to, as you said, you have to make a living. But it makes a smaller portion of the land developable.
It's less impactful.
Right, less impactful. So people in the community here should also be aware of that, because if Stacy chooses to move forward and hear these things, like, oh, she's developing this, and she may be using the conservation subdivision tool, which is much more friendly to the environment and less impactful.
And what are the percentages on that? Is it 20/80?
There's the 20/80 and then there's the 75/25. I'd like one more.
Is there any plan for a traffic light? Because you can't make a left turn out of King Cullen right now.
I know. I know. And that would all be with the town and under site review.
The state.
That's
state.
State.
That would be state.
No, good luck with that.
Yeah. I'd like to say another thing, and coming from us, I think everybody, this might show what side we're on. We're on the side of agriculture, the side of preserving agriculture. We're on the side of non-Hamptonization as well, right? Everything she said, Stacy said, is about keeping things quaint and charming and agricultural. So coming from us, what we really, if we were in it for development, we wouldn't tell you about they're converting ag land to residential on a piece of property between Elijah's and Alvin's. Now, I've only seen this size group turn out for two things. Well, actually, one subject, hotels. When I was down at in South Hold for that project, right? Same size group. Now, I was also at that meeting for converting ag land to agriculture to residential. 12 people. So does everybody care about development, or they just care about hotels? Whereas the hotel burdens the roads 50% as much, does not burden the school system, and really has very little impact on the water table and waste, right? No? Explain why you say no, because I would love this.
But Al Krupski was supposed to be here tonight and had to do something else, so if you want to know about the water, you can call Al.
Absolutely. Please, no, she said no. It's be a great debate because
There's
honestly,
runoff.
yeah, so from 40 rooms as opposed to 30 houses and 64 apartments, right? And everybody likes to say, you're not allowed to develop. And she's not developing. She's a farmer that's developing this much of her land. So if we were about to say, we're gonna, you know what, forget those people in Cutchogue. We're just gonna sneak this bill past, we're gonna convert every agricultural acre to residential. How would you feel? No, we don't want that. So I would like to see this entire group turn up to every town meeting where this is on the docket. And then maybe you'll say, wow, those Solovievs, they're not that bad. They actually want to farm. So please.
They want to build.
No, they don't want to build.
Well, there's.
No, they're building this much of their 2,000 acres.
Well,
If they could build every inch on every acre, they'd never have to do another thing in their life. And she's committed to working.
Those are the only 10 acres that they can develop on.
No, it's not.
No, there's something on 48 as well.
That's what I.
There's only 2 or 3 of our farms that
No, this is commercial.
wrong.
No, this is commercial.
You're wrong. There's only 3 farms with development rights sold out of 9. So you're wrong.
I have a question. Can we go back to the agriculture out west?
Sure.
And what you found so successful?
Sure.
And now you, even with row agriculture, doesn't work here, and so you're going to cattle.
Because of the price of it.
So out west, I was able.
So the process would work, except that there's no way to recruit.
Well, out west it's $300 an acre, and I have huge combines, one person in them, and they just go. And then we fought for about 15 years. We got the old Towner line, a railroad, to give back to the town. So now people actually can get their grain on the railroad to get to the coast and make more money that way too. So it's out there. Also, it's amazing when you're sitting there in the combine and you're just seeing forever just weeds, golden weeds. It's totally different. Yes.
Just building on what you just said, it is the hotel part that makes me nervous. Only because 40 rooms, I know you say it's a boutique hotel, but 40 rooms to me is a lot. And people that owned the Cottage before you did, their big deal was events, outdoor events. At one point they were having a music festival. They were worried about thousands and thousands of people turning up. So worried that town gave them a hard time, and their solution to the noise that they were worried about was to turn the stage around and face it the other way, away from the hammer, right at us. So, with these 40 hotel rooms, and I know people are going to come and learn about wine, I think that's great. I liked everything you had to say. But what happens when someone comes and says, my daughter's getting married, and we'd like all 40 of your rooms, and we'd like the wedding outside, and there'll be a band. That makes me nervous.
Sure. Well, for the last year of operating the hotel, how have I done? I'm not the hotel, the vineyard. How have I done?
You've done great. Really great.
No loud events.
No events, right?
We don't need the money, right? That's what everybody says. You don't need money. Everybody likes to count other people's money.
Tell now has said for a lot of the places that we went, there are more and more out here because everybody wants it out here.
they said, 10 events a year. But every weekend. So my solution for that is, first of all, I am not going to be in an event venue. I'm trying to build a Zen retreat, a spa. If I were to have a wedding on the weekend, I would lose my clientele. People wouldn't come back. But to offset that, what I have decided is, I told you it's going to be underground. So my event space would be in the cellar, underground, enclosed. So if there's loud music, it's underground, enclosed.
You
Or
don't
not
have,
outside.
I'm sorry, but you don't have music now?
We do very low, and so far
we can hear
everybody.
it.
Well, you should speak with us because we have not had any complaints on the music. We try to keep it, Sunday maybe 1 to 3. We have jazz on Sundays.
No later than that?
No, 1 to 3.
Who's playing the music then?
I know, actually it's not us. No, other people have said somebody's playing loud music. It is not us. Yeah, it's not us. We're 1 to 3.
Listen, there's somebody across the creek from me that plays music all the time, and it's not a vineyard, it's not a farm, we're on Skunk. So somewhere in your
Right now, it's not on us,
the
because
music.
it's west of us.
Well, I can tell you, it's on social media, our live music is always from 1 to 3.
Depends on the way the wind blows.
Yeah, yeah.
This retail outlet that you spoke of earlier, for farmers and craftspeople, where would you be?
So it's you know where the little farm stand is? You know where we do the drive-in movie nights for cats?
You're not getting rid of the farm stand, are you?
No, it'd be like right along there, where that, where the frontage is, and the hotel would be behind it.
And that would be like, 7 days a week, or just, weekend?
The retail? I mean, it depends. I don't know. I know different people in town who have different businesses have asked to be able to move over there. I guess it really depends on their hours and their days.
Are you guys gonna really work with the state to address the traffic situation?
Yes.
Because I live on Harbor, and it's a nightmare
Yeah, I know.
to get out of it.
I know. I
Now
only
this
go
is
right
coming on
below
my
our
corner.
house.
I really hope you guys.
And we try to make the left-hand turn
Address
out there, we
this
get
big
cursed
time.
out by people who block
Yeah,
our roads.
it's the signs that
We've
don't block
literally
them.
taken us over 5 minutes to make a left-hand turn out there.
Listen, I agree, and that is the problem. It is a problem now. I actually feel when we go through this process, we will be able to have a better solution, because that whole situation there is bad.
And I am worried about the farmers, but me getting out of my block. It's really gonna be nuts.
No, but
Everybody does it, we do it. We
Yeah.
coming out of our farm, we do it. We
That's
It's a
what
nightmare.
you hear everywhere.
That's my biggest concern.
What happened in front of King Cullen is wrong. It is wrong. It's very dangerous. What I've done is, I try to make people come into my vineyard and exit over by the farm stand. And I try to move traffic that
That's
way.
what we
That's
thought
why
you were
I asked
gonna
you about
do.
that.
I thought you were gonna direct.
That entrance.
We've heard we've heard 3 things. We've heard it's gonna be a restaurant, we've heard it's gonna be a spa,
Yeah, no.
and we've heard you're moving the tasting room over there.
Well, actually, we're not allowed to.
Okay.
Yeah, you're actually not
Because
allowed to.
we were told, someone told us that where your tasting room is, you need that land for something else that you're doing.
No, that's
Yeah, a
not
lot
true.
of stories. on that.
And so to have a farm vineyard, you have to have your tasting room on your farm vineyard. It can't be off. Yeah, it can't be off.
Well, if there's any other rumors, just go on Facebook and hit her up.
I know, I heard a really good one that I was buying the cemeteries and exhuming all the bodies.
I walk to that cemetery
No, I like
every
that
day.
cemetery. We're
That
gonna
cemetery is very nice.
I was like, wow. Oh my gosh, that's I wouldn't mess with that, that's for sure. Yes?
In order to do this plan at the winery, Peconic Bay, would you be taking down all the buildings in front that are there?
No, the house would stay, the red barn would stay. The only thing that would change is the original tasting room now would be the new tasting room. So I would have to
Say that
get
again?
where the tasting room is now would be the new tasting room. And underneath would be the winemaking.
Next to Braun's.
Okay.
Everything would be on the commercial front.
But you're not removing any of the buildings that are there.
No, that one would just be removed to put the new tasting room. I mean, other than that, I don't.
in the front as you come in?
Well, my actual tasting room is there right now. It's too small. I mean, it can maybe fit 10 people.
I used to manage that tasting room, and you're absolutely
right. So we can't even take reservations really, because if it rains, we don't have a place to put them time. So we're really kind of at a hardship, really, for the one there. It's really too small.
And how many stores, I know it's all not even enough, but how many stores do you plan on putting up on the main road?
Sure, well, I know my designer had talked about 12,000 square feet. So
At 2,000 square feet for each store, so like 6 stores.
I'd like to know a little bit about your fiance.
Oh,
don't get him
It was
started.
very nice to meet you. You don't even want to know.
We don't let him come out very much.
Oh, there's no reply to any of that. See, there was silence.
I was an NYPD detective, hostage
Oh,
negotiator.
boy.
So, negotiation is my specialty. But seriously, she got me into farming, and I jumped in with both feet and both hands in the dirt, and it's very rewarding. And I'm not being a negative Nancy, even though somebody like to say I am. I've seen it. There's very few crops. I'm very fortunate to be friends with a few old-time farmers. Dave Steele to be kind of like a mentor to me. Steve Mudd, he's got away with people, but he's very informative, very knowledgeable. I have these people as like a confidant, and don't do that. And then, so what? Did we do it? Yeah, because we tried it. Corn, sweet corn. Oh, God. Anybody want to buy a flash freezer and an ice plant?
Yeah, that's our work.
So there's very, very few crops we've identified. And sadly enough, cattle is one, simply because you could do it with 2 people. When they raise minimum wage again, and when they decrease the work week, right now, if you want to do the math, our vineyard guys during season work 70 hours a week. If you drop that to 40 hours, forget it.
So my labor.
Your bottle, I'll put it in perspective, I'm sorry. Your white bottle of white wine, your new white wine, you're looking at $55, $60 if that happens.
And a lot
Can
of
the market
people
sustain
won't
it? Ask
buy it.
yourselves. No. So what happens to the vineyard?
It's
It's
the
gonna go to
Russians'
hell.
fault.
It's the Russians.
But to be honest, my labor bill last year for the vineyards was $700,000. So 17% increase.
It's a lot of wine.
Yeah, it's a lot. That's
But you
just
won't
for
buy
the
the
that's just
$50
for the
bottle of
farming. That's not in the tea
You have
stand. That's
goats
not at
too,
the
right?
grocery farm. What was that?
You have goats also, right?
Yeah, goats, pigs.
Yeah, I like seeing that on the main road.
Yeah. And then I want sheep, but so far nobody's helping me with sheep.
She just wants to farm and sustain it.
Yes.
Where's the slaughterhouse that you have to show me?
Well, there's one in Connecticut and there's one in Massachusetts, but I'm working on something else.
So you have to take everything there.
There's no slaughterhouses on Long Island, it's not allowed.
It's not allowed.
Brick and
With that, I'd just like to thank everybody. Oh, we have one more.
I think a lot of the concern is we're here now and part of the community. I think a lot of people are surprised at how warm you are. We're very receptive to that. But I know you speak of East Hampton, but where were you before? What did you do before? That you've left and you've come here, and how long are you going to be here? And it's not your properties. So when your ex-husband says, all right, she's moved on, and he's just going to...
So I left my home in Montana at 18, and I moved to East Hampton, and I lived there for 18 years until I got divorced.
Oh, full-time East Hampton?
Full-time. We were full-time. My kids went to public school. I was PTA
Where are your
president.
kids going to school now?
They go to Cutchogue East and I ran 2 Girl Scout troops. I did all the community.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. I wish you the best of luck with the chick.
No, I was the mayor still calls me. Everybody, they come up to the North Fork to visit me. When they did their harvest festival in East Hampton, I brought my wine down. I was the first person to serve alcohol in their town ever. They trusted me that much. The chief of police. I have such a good relationship with East Hampton. What's happened in East Hampton is very sad. My friends have lost their restaurants. They've lost their leases. My ex-husband moved to California. East Hampton is not. It's so sad. It's not what it was, and it's devastating. It really is devastating. And for me, I have many friends in the community On Shelter Island too. Everybody knows where I am. They come and sit with me at the breakfast counter, have a cup of coffee. I love it here. My children are being raised here. I'm not leaving the North Fork. And then I'm hoping my children will continue on with me.
You're not living in the White House with 11 kids.
Well, actually, my
Come
house.
on now.
No. The house I'm in right now is tiny. My kids sleep on the couch.
Smaller than that White House.
Yeah,
right?
and it was overcome with raccoons in 2012. It's horrible. Yes.
I think you need to renegotiate.
I
with
know.
your husband.
But where am I going to go on the North Fork? As you
Yeah,
know,
but
there's
she needs
no
to
housing.
negotiate with her fiance. It's smaller.
But there's no housing on the North Fork, so I'm moving near the funeral home. But yeah, there's my kids sleep on the couch. I mean, my two girls share a tiny little room. I mean, my kitchen is this big. You know, I'm trying to cook for
With
children.
no vent for the oven. You know what that smells like?
How many of your rich girl?
That's why I said
No. Stefan has the money. I work.
A rich ex-husband.
Are many of your children home with you now? Like,
I have 3 right now. Last year I had 5. I mean, it just depends. Depends on the year.
so a lot of them are older.
Yeah,
I
well, my
remember
oldest
reading
is
one.
20, and my quadruplets are 19, and then I have a daughter turning 18. I have 14-year-old twins, a 9-year-old, an 8-year-old, and a 7-year-old.
So we have 9, 8, and 7.
Well, no, we have 3.
Oh yeah, 13, 9, 7. It's so confusing.
Okay, all right.
So I just want to thank everybody for
Listen, you
coming.
can always find me at my businesses.
Say no to rezoning ag land.
Thank you, Vincent. And we hope it